I'm known as the value whisperer because I help people to really understand the value that they bring and how to communicate that in a way that resonates deeper instead of shouting louder. So if we're an introvert and we've been told, which I think we all have been told, just be more extrovert, you're trying to be someone else. And that's never going to be the way you're going to connect with the right people and attract the right opportunities.
Smarter marketing for introverts. This is going to be the topic of today's wonderful talk with Melitta Campbell. Melitta and I, we just jumped off a coaching session. She was one of the boot campers, or is still a boot camper of the LinkedIn Substack Flywheel boot camp. We're going to cover this as well. But the most important thing really is I know so many inside the Online Writing Club are interested in how to hype myself without sounding salesy and stuff. What if I'm an introvert who hates like shouting, And for this, you are, I think, the best expert here. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about who you are, what you're doing. And the best is really, I'm in Germany right now. You are in Switzerland. So we have like the same time zone. This is the best. And so, Melitta, the stage is yours. Tell us a bit, and the Online Writing Club members, who you are, what you're doing, as you're such a rock star.
Thank you. And I think we've proven that, we're both introverts, and there's this idea that introverts are quiet, they're not very spontaneous, and yet we were like, yeah, let's just do it. We've gone for it. So my background is 30 years in marketing and communications, and over that time, I've worked in small companies, large companies, I've worked at the UN, I've worked independently, but I've just seen how communication works in different situations, and therefore the patterns that always work in every situation. And that is a really key thing because, we're all human. And I think we sometimes forget we're just communicating with another human. Even if you're writing for your website, it's a one-on-one interaction with the other person that you're creating. So I think we can relax into our messaging when we realize that that's all it is. There's no, sometimes people think, I have to be professional, but it's just connecting with one other person. And through my work, I discovered that most people are never trained in how to communicate. So it's a big fear. We know like public speaking, for example, is the number one fear that people have. And so there's this fear around communicating, and there's the gap of skill. We don't know how to communicate. Put those two together, and too many people hesitate when all we're doing is connecting with other people one-to-one. So that's really the driver behind my work. And I'm known as the value whisperer because I help people to really understand the value that they bring and how to communicate that in a way that resonates deeper instead of shouting louder. That's really the focus of my work.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to value, we talked about this in the bootcamp. It can be so generic. However, somehow you have to find your unique selling proposition. Who are you? Show how unique you are. Be very specific when it comes to your newsletter. And when we were talking about yours with Smarter Marketing for Introverts, I already told you this is amazing because by this, you're really building a category newsletter, meaning you create your own category with this. Why do I say this? First, it is what we can see from the name of the newsletter, which is already like 90% of the game when it comes to newsletters. It says smarter marketing. So meaning that this is a better way of marketing, of sharing your voice, sharing your message. And then we have for introverts, which makes it like, this is for introverts. This is not for extroverts. So like extroverts are excluded. We really want to do this with introverts because we know how introverts feel about this. And we were also talking about so many think that I'm an extrovert. However, I'm an introvert. We talked about like this introverted, extroverted, introvert thing. And I think this is really the best. If you are an introvert, and I was so shy when I was younger, and my grandfather always said to me, Christina, I don't know, why are you like this? When you were like little, I don't know, try to channel like your 5-year-old self. You were so outgoing, and you love to dance, and you love to sing and stuff. And so over the course of time, I was like, well, yeah, I can still somehow go back in time and think about my 5-year-old self. But at the same time, I am this introvert and I have to accept this. I don't know, how was your story there with you being or discovering the person who you truly are?
Yeah, so I was definitely a shy girl growing up. My TEDx talk is all about that. And my first book, A Shy Girl's Guide to Networking, was all about that journey. But I want to just really highlight here that introversion and shyness are not the same thing. So I am a shy introvert, but there are lots of introverts who are not at all shy. They're very outgoing. It's more to do with how we balance our energy, which is where having the right approach to your marketing is really key. Because if you're always burning out, you're pushing yourself too hard. There's so much advice for extroverts who can be everywhere and they get that energy that drains us. Anything that's novel and new, all these social interactions, it's not that we don't like them, but they drain us. So we have to be very careful how we balance that social interaction and time to recuperate and manage ourselves. So part of the Smarter Marketing for Introverts framework, the Value Spring framework, is how do you manage your environment and your mindset and your habits and your boundaries so that you have the time, energy, and focus to market your business and build that relationship with your clients the way you want to. So it's all a matter of balance. So I think the smarter approach to marketing for introverts does work for extroverts as well, but it's not necessarily the other way around. Marketing that works for extroverts does not always work for introverts. And no one has really, well, very few people that in my circles anyway, are really focusing on that framework. So that was really something that I'm passionate about. I've been working on my program for introverts for 10 years now. And of course, some extroverts I work with as well, but it's really making sure that everything is aligned so that you can feel good about your marketing and not feel drained. Yeah.
You really went from explaining us like with the that shyness doesn't mean like you're an introvert. You can also be like an outgoing introvert. This is also possible. So it's very important to really think about where to put your energy and where not to put your energy. And I'm super happy that saying, you know what, Christina, I'm going to jump on Substack because I believe in the platform. And I think with smarter marketing for introverts, if we're talking now, because you said like the modern marketing for introverts, if we're now thinking about like all the misconceptions we have there from like extroverts, things we're learning, if we want to be very specific, what can we do as introverts, like introvert solos, introverts, writers, authors, whatever, like mompreneurs? What can we do? What would be like, maybe you have 2 to 3 suggestions where we can start if we don't want to sound salesy, but at the same time also hype ourselves because no one else is going to do it for us.
As I mentioned, it's all about not being louder, but resonating deeper. And the only way you can resonate deeper is if you are being yourself. So if we're an introvert and we've been told, which I think we all have been told, just be more extrovert, you're trying to be someone else. And that's never going to be the way you're going to connect with the right people and attract the right opportunities. So you do need to be yourself. But then, we hear lots of people saying, be authentic. Well, what does that mean? And it takes a little bit of unpicking because to find your value, and it's not just your values, but your skills, your experience, these lessons we've learned the hard way from all the ways we've messed up, there's a lot of value in those lessons. But over time, we've been told too often that, don't be loud, don't tell people about your successes and your achievements. No one loves people who brag. So we hide that away. And then on the other hand, we're told don't tell people about your weaknesses and the way you failed because that shows you're not good enough. But if we're not allowed to talk about those two things, we end up stuck in the middle, the same as everyone else. So you do need to take some time to really embrace all of that. What does that really tell you about you? And to really listen to how that feels, particularly for women, this is really important to tap into that intuition, how it feels for you. And then you want to do the same for your clients. Who are they? What are they struggling with? What's their day like today? And how could that be better after they've worked with you? Get as specific as possible. And then you want to look at the overlap. And that's what I call your value sweet spot. And nobody in the world is going to have that same value sweet spot as you because they're not having that same value and they're not having that same dream client. So that's going to naturally be unique. And if you build your marketing and your messaging and your offers and the way you work, everything from that value sweet spot, you're going to naturally stand out from everyone else. So look for the clues. This is a good start point bring all of that together, but look for the clues in the feedback you've got from your clients. What are they saying consistently? Because that's going to be a big clue about what they value most about you. And that's really starting to help you find that value sweet spot. And then, and this is the bit that works brilliantly for introverts, because suddenly we're not trying to be everyone else. We know this is what's going to make a difference. This is where the magic happens. And so we're not trying to be anyone else. We're not trying to do marketing for the way anyone else does it, because we know this is how we want to build a relationship with our dream clients. This is the transformation we're going to make for them. And this is how we're going to take those early steps to build that trust, rapport, that belief that we're the right person to work with them. So all of that needs to sort of come together, but it's all just starting with what's most valuable for you and your clients, and that will overlap.
Yeah, and I love it so much because my MBA topic, for instance, was about identity-based brand managing, where it's super important to know your values. And you, for instance, in the past, you worked for Nestle as an example. Also, Nestle needs to know the values, also needs to live by the values. And values, I think, are also like a topic where we can be a bit more specific here, because many gonna say, oh, I don't know, Melitta, what my values are. We heard already about the feedback loop that we're gonna hear from others. For instance, Melitta would tell me, hey, with the bootcamp, I love this and that. Or when you're presenting something, I love this and that. Maybe this and that is not so good. For instance, you're talking too fast, something like this. But when we're thinking about values, maybe you can share like the whatever, like top 5 values or top 10 values or so we can then pick, and based on this then create our own brand.
So when I talk about your true value, I'm not talking about values. That's part of it, but also everything else. Just to be clear on that. When it comes to values, I won't share the top 5 values, but I'll share what to do with them, because you can Google most common values and you'll get a list. So find the ones on there that speak to you. But one problem that some of my clients have is like, oh, but I want to be honest. And so I have to put honest on there. But if what this is a value that doesn't make it to your top 5 or your top 3, it doesn't mean you're dishonest, for example, if honest isn't there. So just to make that clear, if it's not there, it doesn't mean you don't have that value. It's just that it's not the most important thing. But you want to find those values, and the way to whittle it down, because you'll have like a list of 100 and you're like, oh, but I want to be all of these people. But it's like, if I could have this, but not that, would it matter? So you want to go for the 10 that feel like they speak to you most, and then go through that list. If I had this, but not that, would it matter? And you'll be able to start prioritizing that list, get your top 3, and then think for each of those, what does that then mean? Like if I believe in excellence, what does that mean for the way I conduct myself? What does that mean for the way I run my programs? What does that mean for the way I show up on a live, for example? So you want to then dig into how can you translate that into behaviors that you're going to live by every day. So look at the values, but then you really want to translate that into how you're going to conduct yourself. So, and then that becomes your personal brand, because your brand isn't something you own. It's what you represent in the client's mind. So if you are acting in accordance with your values and you're clear about what that is, then you're going to be naturally building this personal brand and this strong coherence that is going to build the trust, the sort of know, like, and trust. And the bit that people miss is the belief. They can know, like, and trust you, but still not believe you're the right person for them. So we need to focus on that belief. And this is where the value comes in.
Hmm. Yeah, and if you're watching this right now, Anima or Bettina or Peter and all the others who are here watching this right now, if you want to, you can also put your values, okay, your values into it. Or if you're super clear on what your newsletter is about, who you are as a person, as a brand, you can also put it maybe there, and we can talk about this then in a bit. Also, what you mentioned was that you said an introvert has this bias to overthink things and keeps being stuck by this. Maybe you can unstuck us introverts, and so that we stop overthinking and start taking action. Where would I start now? So of course, what you did was you said, now, okay, I was already super active on LinkedIn. Now I want to take everything I have built there on LinkedIn and put it to Substack, which is super smart. I want to build this flywheel without adding more to my plate. And I don't how do you feel about this, like setting up the Substack and everything? How does it feel compared to LinkedIn maybe?
What I'm really enjoying with Substack already is that it has, or either the people here are naturally like that, or Substack is set up in a way that allows them to, but be more themselves. And so I used to do a lot of corporate writing in my corporate days and as a consultant as well. And so I had a voice. And then through my blog and LinkedIn, I've managed to make that voice more me. But I think Substack's going to help me take that to the next level so I can really start to engage with the right people. As I said, build that resonance by being more of myself. So I'm really excited to dive into not just my ideas and philosophy, but where those have come from. Because I think once you understand the background, you can connect with it more and it can become yours much more easily. I'm really looking forward to doing that. And there's more space to go into more stories and conversation. And I love that it really genuinely is a community as well. I was on school for a while as well to try and build a community there, but it just didn't lend itself the same way that Substack appears to. So I'm really excited to explore the community side of it too, which comes to your point about overthinking, because when you're building a business or doing anything new for the first time, it changes your identity. You're becoming like, oh, I'm a mom and now I'm a business owner, or I'm a corporate leader and now I'm a business. You have a change of identity, and that's where imposter syndrome can come up, is when you have this change. So when you have imposter syndrome, extroverts naturally have a bias for action, so they will get themselves out of it because they'll take some action and prove to themselves, oh, I can do it, I can step into this new identity. Whereas introverts have a bias for overthinking, so they can stay stuck and just go in this sort of downward spiral. So there are several things we can do. If you recognize you're overthinking, just stop yourself and think, is this true? This thought that I'm telling myself, and very often you're like, no. If you do think it's true, it's like, well, where's the evidence? And can I find evidence the opposite might be true? So you can start to kind of slow down that thinking and reverse it, and then think, well, what's the smallest action I can take right now in the right direction, and start moving yourself into action. So you just need to be a little bit more conscious of moving into action. The other thing is community. When you have other people around you, or an accountability buddy or a coach or someone that can pull you out of that and say, I think you're a bit stuck here. Like, why are you thinking this? Isn't even true. Just get on with it. To someone that can give you that gentle nudge to get into action, then that's going to help pull you out of that overthinking as well. But I think, as with everything, that awareness is the first step. So if you become aware that you are procrastinating, hesitating, overthinking, then the antidote is action. So what does it take for you to get into action?
Yeah, and this is definitely something that you did, Melitta. So somehow, like from a fellow extrovert, I could also help you take action here on Substack, which is amazing because most of the time it's the best to that someone is there taking you by the hand and showing you what to do and so on. And as you can see here with the smarter marketing for introverts, this is cool. This is also like a new feature on Substack that we can now do screen sharing. And what we can see here that Melitta already like created her word mark. She decided to go with a logo that is herself photo showing herself, which I think is smart. I do the same so that you somehow build your personal brand and in addition have your word mark. And you can also see that Melitta here shared already multiple posts, and these posts are coming, as far as I understood, like from your LinkedIn and your blog, right, Melitta? Is what you're
Some of
like
them.
repurposing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken some of the content from LinkedIn, from my blog, but I've also added to it. But the new one about podcasting, that's brand new. That's actually taken partly from my program, my paid program. And
Hmm.
I've brought all the elements together because we were saying earlier that there's a big gap with women's voices. We don't publish as many business books. When it comes to nonfiction, we're 50-50, but we don't have as many business books. People don't leave women reviews as often. Only 17% of the top 100 podcasts have guests that are female. And if the host is male, that drops to around 9%. So as I asked on LinkedIn, why are you not pitching to more podcasts? And most of them said, I just don't know I don't know how to find podcasts. I don't know how to pitch. I don't know where to begin. So this post is all about, how do you do that? And I'm going to do a follow-up post around visibility confidence. So if you're thinking, yeah, but can I really do this? Then that post will help you. And another post as well on what do you say? Because this is another thing that holds people back. I regularly run a thing called my magnetic messages challenge, just to help people boil down what is that message? How can you package that so you, in any situation, you know what to say that isn't bragging, but makes it clear what you do? So I think that's the thing to say, it's not about self promotion as much as being clear that you can help people. Because
Mhm.
if you're not out there, you can't help people. And it was, I just want to help people. Well, you can't if they don't know you exist, if they don't know you're there, if they don't know what you do. So you do have to communicate, but you don't necessarily have to be loud or pushy or braggy or any of that. It's really helping show your ideal client that you understand them, you know them, and you have a solution. And that's got nothing to do with being braggy. That's got everything to do with building that connection, being their champion, about working alongside them until they're ready to become a client.
Yeah, I love this so much because I'm always saying if someone saying, "Oh, Christina, I hate marketing," which is like the strongest thing I'm hearing all the time. And then I'm explaining, like, well, the moment you start talking about who you are and what you're doing, you could already say this is marketing. You of course could you say this is public relations, but and say this is marketing. And it's very important, especially for women, to stand up and talk about what amazing things they are building. And you told me, Melitta, that you once were the head of a program that really helped women start talking about how awesome they are. Really, am I right about this? Like how badass they are. And this helped them get new job opportunities.
Yeah, I was working within an international private bank. At the time, it was the largest bank in Europe, but then the crash happened and it's not anymore. But yeah, so in those days, we wouldn't have called them in private banking badass, but yes, that's totally what we did. But what really stood out for me was when women had a network, when they had a bit more confidence and connection, and they knew how to communicate clearly. Those three things changed everything. We had around 20% more women promoted over 2 years thanks to that program. And it cost zero. Apart from my salary, it didn't cost the company anything. But what it also showed me is that we can take a lot more responsibility for building those three things ourselves. They're skills we can learn easily. And you connect with other women who you are impressed by and learn from them, and you build that community, build that confidence, build those skills, and a little goes a very long way. And that's what I really want to show people on my Substack as well.
Yeah, and there's another badass here in the chat. Bettina, you know Bettina from the bootcamp, Bettina Cunado. She said, I stand for women, financial independence, and authority. I mainly write about that and how power equally works as a system that sometimes leave women behind. I also write a lot about ethics because I'm a bioethicist, and AI ethics today is a topic. And the publication's name is The Creative Advocate, which I think is amazing. So we can see this also from Bettina that this topic is very important for her. What do you think about this specific niche and category there Bettina is building?
I think that's really important because women are being left behind, particularly when it comes to anything financial. The way we're raised is different. So we just don't have the same we don't have the same relationship with time, with money, with, inner confidence. And even, when you see boys and girls playing in a playground, girls, if someone's doing really well, they'll change the game so it's fair. Fairness is really important to us. With boys, if one boy is winning, they're like, oh, you're amazing. And they'll all champion that guy. So it starts really early on. But because of some of these differences, we don't communicate. We were talking earlier that I'm doing some work at the minute to see how does communication impact the way that female founders get funding. But one of the keys of that is that they just don't talk about money and growth and success in the way that the men interpret as a good investment opportunity. So it's not that there's just so many parts where we're just missing a little bit. So I think, yes, financial literacy is really, really important. So is the communication and confidence. And there's just some small areas where we need to catch up. But if we get those skills, and it's wonderful that we have so many people in the community helping to upskill women and help them feel more confident in those areas, then, we have everything to gain. And when women have access to wealth, they invest that in local communities, into projects that are going to help build up communities and environments and nurture around them. So it's really important for women to have wealth, for their businesses to be successful, because whole communities are going to benefit from that. So yeah, I love the work Bettina's doing.
Somehow also when it comes to my values for the online writing club, it's also about exactly what you said, like this upskill. So help others upskill by helping them understand the platform that is, for instance, now Substack, to build their one person business as an example, because everyone has an idea and has, for instance, Tamara Monasov is such an example. She went through or is going through a great divorce, and now she's building a community around that topic. Although she, on a professional level, she is helping book authors edit and publish their books and become Amazon bestsellers and stuff, or find Penguin Random House or so to become the publisher and stuff like this. And now with Grey Divorce, she's building this community around this. And somehow it also connects to the email list she had already with the book authors, because they now say, wow, you're helping you're having indie publishers and people become book authors. At the same time, you're going through this great divorce. I'm also going through this great divorce. Or I can so feel you, because somehow I feel estranged from my hubby or from my boyfriend and stuff. And so this is very important. And for me, yeah, I also think that knowing about the values is very important. And Bettina also said that fairness is one of her core values. So I think it's very important to know, what is like the foundation of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And we had already like a look on your Substack, and we can do it one more time because some already ask about the program you're offering. So what you can do if you're going on Smarter Marketing for Introverts, valuewhispering.substack.com, then you're going to see that you can click on work with me. But if I'm going to do this, then it's opening a new tab. So it's not going to work here. But if you click on it, then we would come to Melitta's page, which is not hosted on Substack. Of course, it can also be like a custom page, which is then hosted on Substack. And then we would find out more about her 3 programs. And we talked about this, that also for the navigation bar, where most people click on and see, okay, what's inside this news. It's also very smart to be very specific. So for instance, similar to Ellen Scher, a psychotherapist from Florida, she also put like the free discovery call there, because Melitta has, for everyone watching or listening right now, she also has the option that you could jump with her on a free discovery call to find out more about how Melitta can help you. And in addition, if you click on it, but then I have to go, you can see it, cool. If you scroll down, then we're going to see like her program, which means 3 different things. So the quick fix, momentum month. And then we have the most popular is value whispering blueprint. And then we have value whispering intensive. So maybe Melitta, you can share a bit more about this, and also how you think, maybe also based on our coaching session, how you think you can now link from these offerings you have to your paid tiers. How do you think you can link to the paid tiers? And in addition, what do you think about the paid tiers to drive the subscribers on Substack? What will you offer them?
Yeah, we had a really interesting discussion about that. So within the paid tiers, you're going to get copies of my book now, the networking book and the book on value whispering. Those 2 together work brilliantly. And here you've got my momentum month, which is a power hour, but I've noticed that they didn't really work. We came up with some amazing strategies, but then people didn't do the work and didn't make it happen. So I've extended it into what I call a momentum month. So we have the power hour, but then you have full access to me for a month. We have a call 15 minutes every week. So as you come to put that into place, as you have questions, as you're not sure, if you want feedback, we work through all of that. So you don't just come up with a strategy, we actually get a lot done in that month. So that's the sort of quick fix version. But then my value whispering blueprint is the complete program over 12 months. It's kind of like the first 3 or 4 months is where you do most of the work. But then once you have your business model, your strategy, your communication, your messaging, your marketing, and your sales process as well, all of that mapped out, you then have to implement it. And as you come to do that, that's when you have the real questions. So you have access to me twice a week live for 12 months so that you can create the right foundation. You can put it into practice, and it's a little bit loopy. So you think you're going to go like do step 1, 2, 3, but often you'll get to sort of step 5 and then you realize, oh, now this has clicked. It means that step 2 needs to be tweaked here. So you have access to me through all of that. The accountability, of course, so you don't overthink. You get feedback on everything you create. It's really very hands-on. It's like most of my clients say it's like a one-to-one program, even though it's a small group. And I love that feedback. That's really what I wanted. The intensive is then the next level, that if you want to go even faster through this and have the one-to-one calls alongside it, you can do that. What we were talking about as well is maybe separating those links in the bar. So instead of having the work with me with all the options, they're already separated at the top. So you go straight to the power hour or momentum month and straight to the blueprint. It might just make that path smoother for people. So if anyone goes and checks it out in the next hour, it might be different already. But yeah, within the paid tier, I think we can bring in the like a power hour with me, because you were saying, oh, that's so valuable. You give all that away. Because I've had calls with people, even just for 20 minutes, and what we unlock, because very often you think that this is the thing that's blocking you and you just can't figure out how to make it work. But actually, the problem is a few steps before that. Fix that and everything else goes smoothly. So very often in those 20 minutes, we can unlock the thing that's holding you back. And if I have tools and templates and resources that can help, I often give them those to people as well, so they can really get going forward. So yeah.
And what's the thing that is holding back most of the people that are booking one of your programs or getting in contact with you?
I think mostly it's, as you say, they think they hate marketing, but for most people, it's just because they're calling it the wrong thing. It's like sales. We dread sales calls until you realize that when sales is done well, we don't call it sales. We call it like, oh, she was so understanding. She listened to me. She asked great questions. That's what good sales looks like. The same with marketing. If marketing does well, doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like connection, building a relationship, having wonderful conversations. So if we get it right, it doesn't feel like this. And most people, for example, I was working with a personal trainer recently, and she was like, I just haven't got a clue about marketing. I was like, actually, you do marketing every day, because how do you get a client from A to B? You build out a plan. You guide them step by step. You add in the layers once they're ready for that. That's what marketing is all about, having that client journey, taking them step by step, adding in the information that they're ready for, making it optional for them to choose their journey so they never feel under pressure. The way I teach it, at least. I know other people don't do that. So everybody, I would say, already knows marketing. They just haven't called it that. So most of what I'm doing with my clients is helping them realize the skills they already have. And then how do you communicate that value in a way that the right people say, oh my gosh, I need that. Or, oh my gosh, I love Christina. I need to know more about her. How do you get people to lean in so you can take them on that journey? And when the timing is right for them, they become a client. Or sometimes people just will never become a client, but they will refer people to you. They will support you. And often that is really valuable too. So we don't need everyone in our community to become a client. If they did, we'd probably be overwhelmed anyway. But, understanding everyone is a person of interest, it's like our job to almost find out in what way are they interesting. So through our sales conversations, our marketing, the relationships we build through all of our content and communications, we're going to start finding out why are they interesting and how can we help them best.
I think what we touched on at the beginning of the session was where you said often we don't see how awesome we are, like this badass inside us. So this is where I'm always say, try to channel this 5-year-old girl who's dancing, who's singing, who's so proud of being this super young girl.
Mm-hmm.
And also what we saw with your newsletter is that when it comes to communicating effectively, it's not just about talking about yourself and what you're doing, creating this lean in story. So people are going to say, oh, this is what you're doing. This is interesting. But more also transferring this when it comes to the design of your newsletter, because on Substack, you can do so many amazing things. We talked about, for instance, the navigation bar, how important the word mark is. And you can't, this is not an excuse anymore. Tell me, oh, Christina, I'm not a designer. Now, with all the new features that Substack shipped, it's so easy. There is a pen icon now. You can just click on it. And with this pen icon now, you can, for instance, make the word mark bigger. In the past, we couldn't do this. Or for instance, you can click on the hero post, like the one you maybe have pinned to your publication. So you can also then decide how would I like this to show up when it comes to the fonts, when it comes to the background color and stuff. So there are many, many things. What do you think, Melitta, when it comes to like designing? Do you have any tips for us, female voices, what we can do? For instance, also when it comes to, I don't know what, some women I'm seeing, for instance, they have, Melanie Goodman, I think is a great example. Melanie told me, Christina, over the course of time, my color became magenta, as an example. My color somehow, because this is my favorite color, is royal blue. I love blue. Yeah. Now with my girl in the house, baby girl in the house, I of course also add other colors like pink and purple and white and stuff, or yellow. But in the past, it was always blue. Maybe you can share a bit more about like when it comes to translating all this into design stuff. Do you have any suggestions for female voices as well?
Yeah. So actually, I got my business degree from a design school. So I so I have a very unique angle in that respect. And what I loved about that experience is it's all about experimenting. You're always taking influences from everyone else. What does this mean for me? You're always, okay, that worked brilliantly, but where can we take it next? It's quite a nice creative mindset that we had. Before I come on to the design, I want to follow up on something you said earlier. This is a big problem, and I think it may be a challenge for some of your community and I call it expert ease. So you have expertise, but you have to be at ease with your expertise. Most of my clients are super smart women. I've even got I think I've got 5 PhDs in my program and even a rocket scientist.
Really?
Yeah, they're really smart. But the problem that they have is even they are saying, am I good enough? Like, am I expert enough? Because they're very aware of, okay, they are the expert, but there's so much more to learn. So I think it's key to understand that when you are an expert, when you have this passion, you're on the road to mastery. And you know whether you're not the master yet, but it doesn't mean that you don't have all the expertise you need right now to help your clients because they are further behind. So you really want to build this expertise and understand that you would 100% expert enough right now and you can help people. It's just that you're on the road to mastery. And so there's more to go, but then you can take your audience with you on that journey as you're learning and growing. So just feel comfortable with that.
I think one perfect example for this is, for instance, AI. We also talked about AI, Melitta, today. And I think, for instance, if you are now a female voice, you might have seen already like this gap that especially if you Google this, or not Google, but if you go on ChatGPT or Claude and asking for a specific person to help you, you might see that 90% of all the AI gurus on the internet are male. So there is a huge gap now. And also women are like, also when it comes to tech, when it's, what's it called? Like MINT jobs, like MINT in German, it's called MINT. So mathematics, you know what I mean?
STEM.
STEM, exactly. So also there's a huge gap. I can't tell you exactly, let's say, I don't know what, like, let's say 30% or 40% there are female or girls in this, or women in this. And the same now happens with AI, So first we have, for instance, just if we're looking at whatever, like 100 people or so who everyone knows that AI is becoming like a big, big topic. And then if we're thinking, okay, how many female and male voices are there? We have a maybe just like 5 female voices there or so. And there's also a huge gap. So everyone listening right now, when it comes to AI, you can also start writing about AI, sharing your stuff about AI without being an actual AI expert. Because who is an AI expert now? Maybe you have experience similar to Melitta with LLMs and stuff, or you are a software developer, something like this. This is fine. This is cool. Or you work already in tech. However, with AI, everything is changing and undergoing so many changes at the moment. And this is just what I wanted to share with these 1%. If you are 1% ahead of others, or you're just in, what did you say, like on the journey of this mastery, on this path of mastery.
Yeah, I was recently asked to talk about AI and communication, and I was like, oh, I can't talk about that. I'm not expert enough.
Yeah,
And then I caught myself literally saying that in my head. I was like, hold on a minute. So I did go and talk about it, and I really related it back to now it's even more important for us to understand our true value so we can use that and use AI to, like, we're guiding AI. We're saying, this is what we're all about. Help me amplify my voice, rather than I see people say, oh, I don't know what I'm about. So I asked ChatGPT and it said, oh, this is what you're all about. This is your ideal clients. It's like, no, it shouldn't be telling you because it's the average of the average. You should be telling it and helping it help you amplify that voice, reach more of the right people, and find those ways. So, we really want to flip that around. So that's ended. So in the end, they were like very grateful. I was like, yes, I am an expert in this.
You promised me to talk about also like the 4 golden rules.
I'll touch on design very quickly because I've got super quick advice. Just keep it simple. When it comes to fonts, you have like one main font, one accent font if you want to. Don't have more than 2. Unless you're really a pro, it's going to look messy. Stick to like same with color with your colors, one accent color. So one main color, one accent color, your kind of base color like black or just off black for your main like body, and just stick with that. Mine is 2 colors or 3 colors and blobs. That's it. In the same font. And then just use that in different ways. So just keep it simple. The main thing is to be consistent. And it is worthwhile paying a designer to create your identity once you're ready. But if you're just starting out, that's quite expensive. And if you're not quite sure exactly what you're doing and for who and what that value is yet, I think it's better to wait to do your website, wait to do your brand, anything that's going to be those bigger investments, wait till you're really sure what you're doing. But in the meantime, just keep it simple, keep it consistent, and you can't go wrong. Yes, the 4 golden rules. So as I mentioned, I've spent my entire career in marketing communications, and I was asked to train this professional body on communications. I was like, oh gosh, right. So how do I condense everything I've learned into something teachable within a day? So I started writing everything down, and I came up with my 53 rules of, and then I was like, I can't really, if it's 53, they can't all be essential. And I can't teach that in a day. That's going to be like a year's course. So I started grouping everything. And then I found that I could group everything under 4 key things. So the first is have a purpose. If you've ever sat down and tried to write and struggled to write, it's because you didn't know why. And this is a big problem in corporate offices where your boss tells you to do something and you don't know why. So you don't really know what to put in it or where to start. If you know what your purpose is, then it's much clearer for your audience to understand why they should read it. Because, if you don't know why you're writing, they're certainly not going to figure it out. So, and a confused mind doesn't buy into anything. So we really want to be clear. So have one clear purpose, write that in one sentence, and use that to guide your writing to make sure you're only putting things into that message that align with that purpose. Okay. And for the purpose, you want to think, what do I want people to think, feel, and do as a result of this message? Because we have, communication has 2 strands. It's information and interaction. What are people going to do with that information? And often people don't think about that. They just put the information out, don't really consider their audience. How are they going to understand this information? What are they going to do as a result? Or how are they going to shift their thinking? And when you can influence someone's thinking, that's when you really start to build the trust and influence within their world as well. So that's the first thing. Have one single clear purpose. The second is know your audience. Be really clear on who your audience is. And so you can start to put more of them in your message. So the instant connection formula is just to put as much of them in your message really from the very beginning. And the one thing we all care about more than anything else is what's in it for me. So it's always what's in it for me, what's in it for my team or my family, then what's in it for my community, my company, my country, the next level. Always that's what we're interested in. So you always want to start with, why should they invest the time and energy to read or listen to or watch this particular communication? Where are you taking them? What's the thing they're going to walk away with after like reading or consuming this piece of content? So know your audience as much as possible so you can really put as much of their situation in. What are they worried about? Where are they stuck today? What do they need to hear to get them closer to their end goal? You obviously want to overlay your expertise, your voice, your message within that, but it has to be centered around them. Otherwise, they just won't pay attention and everything else is wasted. The third thing is to keep it clear and simple. So particularly on the internet, we're all in an international environment. We don't know if people are mother English tongue, German, whatever. So the simpler our language is, the easier it's going to be for people to connect. And longer words just slow people down, and they haven't got time for that. Also, look at the structure. I know you've talked about this. If a content looks simple, easy to read, it's well structured, the hierarchy is clear, it's much easier for them, because typically they will scan, grab, and go on the internet. And with something like Substack, they're more likely to scan and then go back and read, or to sort of jump around. So you want to make it easy for them to behave that way if they want to. And the final thing is plan. And in your plan, you're obviously going to plan, what's my purpose? Who's my audience? What is the structure and the sort of way I'm going to put this message across? What's meaningful for my client? Do they prefer to have images or text or short text or long text? Or what is that tone that we need to adopt? And then the final thing is, how are you going to check if that worked? And what are you going to do if you discover it did work or you didn't work? What are you going to do with that information so you can continue to grow and you can continue to make sure that your message lands? So that's the 4 golden rules of communication.
Yeah, I love this so much. And I think this is so important, especially when it comes to, again, like the idea I'm an introvert, I have no clue where to start. And I think the 4 golden rules can already like help me. And to come back to in the beginning where you also said, if I have no clue who I am and I also have no clue about my value proposition and stuff, I would then also, similar to what you did today, you set up your smarter marketing for introverts, and now you're getting the feedback from the people in the comments, which I think is like the best. And then you have this feedback loop, and this only happens if you show up. So I bet we talked about like this gap in the market where I don't know how many, what do you think? I have to check this. How many female creators we have on the internet? Because I think that there is a huge gap. So many don't dare to put themselves out there. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe because I have, for instance, one tribe member, and I know exactly her hubby is not happy about her building her business because he says, you know what, I'm the one who's earning the money. You don't have to do it, and I don't want you to talk about our relationship and stuff on the internet. But this is something that people can connect with. And at the same time, she feels somehow also like disconnected with her hubby. And this is what she wants to talk about. So she wants to build this community around this. Of course, her hubby doesn't want to hear it, but maybe somehow it's also going to help their relationship then. Yeah, I think there are so many amazing women out there who never ever dare to talk on stage. And the stage doesn't mean, similar to Melitta, that the stage needs to be like in real life, meaning you have to drive somewhere and then go on a big stage or so. This can be, for instance, a Substack Live. This can be just you sharing a post on Substack. This can be a comment, this can be any type of relationship building thing you're doing on the internet. And it's over the course of time, which I'm also doing with Melitta now, you're suddenly you feel that you're growing, and it's not about like growing faster, meaning in regard to subscribers or follower, but you're also like growing from the inside out. So for instance, I started as a female writer, which somehow connected back to the person I used to be in my 20s when I studied journalism. And then later I became a marketing expert. But I said, after giving birth to my baby, I said, I want to reconnect to this person I used to be, to the person who would love to write and who would love to communicate as much as possible and be the super connector. And if you have then a specific role in a company, you somehow can feel stuck there, and you have like agencies you communicate with and others who are doing the branding for you, and you're just coordinating, except of emails, doing the presentations, getting on stages, you know what I mean? So it's totally fine. However, it is not something that I felt like the need for, and I did it. And also I started, and my English was okay. So I always have been working for international companies, agencies and stuff. But now you can see it's more fluent, and even a very famous book author from America. She lives in New York City. She said to me, I would talk like a New Yorker, which means so fluent and stuff. Of course, I don't know all the things. And if Melitta, you would ask me about whatever, like if it comes to gardening, about like all the words in the garden and mowing the grass or whatever, then yeah, there is definitely a limitation, but at least I try. And if I've never, I think this is like the biggest development ever. If I've never ever tried this like 5 years back, I wouldn't be at this point where I would now be talking to Melitta. You know what I mean? So this alone is like the development. And now I would say we have one last question before we end
Can I
today.
just say one thing on that? Because we were scrolling, you show me different people's Substacks as examples, and you show me the notes from Ellen. And she had one poster there, and it says, "This is your effing permission." And I think that's what it is, right? We've never been given permission to use our voice and get it out there. And that holds us back massively. And I hear it all the time with my clients. Am I allowed to do this? So anyone listening, this is your effing permission. You can get out
Yeah.
there,
It
share your
it
voice, and share that permission. Tell everyone they can get out there. But if it doesn't feel like fun, you won't do it. So find the fun, experiment, make it okay for you. In the first part of my book on networking, I have my victory formula, which is all about creating the rules that are going to help you feel confident in that situation. So just think about, as you say, those small steps you can take and make it okay. I'm just going to do this and experiment. And if people hate it, that's okay. It teaches me something. So yeah, go out there and just look forward to failing, because you'll learn so much in that process and you're taking action, in which case you can't help but build your confidence.
And what I love with you, Melitta, is really that, of course, you can also go into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to do this, but you somehow found your own frameworks, meaning like the four golden rules. Of course, the golden rule is nothing new. It is coming from arts and stuff, but it's your four golden rules. And this is something that I would then link to Melitta. And also, if I would be talking about you, I would say, hey, I remember like these four golden rules. Or there is someone else who has a past framework about PATH, for instance. Or what else did you say? Like, this is my concept of modern marketing, something like this. If you're, for instance, reading a lot and not creating a lot, what you can do is everything you learned by just reading or maybe listening to Audible because you're busy with the kids, you just put everything together and then thinking, okay, how can I use this and make it my own template, make it my own concept. Most of the time you're going to see it's just somehow like a repetition of something. But then I guess the best example for this is like Atomic Habits, because this is nothing else than a list of all the atomic habits put together. And of course, you can find them on the internet. But this is a book you can hold in your hand, and there's everything in it about the atomic habits, why it's so important, what are atomic habits. Here's how to create these atomic habits, how to improve yourself and stuff. And this is something similar you can build online if you start and you do. And two more things. I want to talk with you about podcasting and
Yes.
the tips you had for booking a podcast. And then in addition, since you showed us these offers, maybe some could think, oh, Melitta has already her offers. However, Melitta also started from the ground up with this. And maybe you have some more ideas for people who are introverts and would like to create their own offers beyond just the subscriptions.
I was going to add to what you just said, but I think this is the answer, because there are no new ideas, right? All the ideas that are all out there, it's all just new packaging. So you know how you can get your client from A to B. They don't know that. So you just have to brainstorm all your ideas and package that in a way that's going to help them follow those ideas in the way that you believe is going to get the results they want. So my Value of Spring blueprint, it's exactly that. I believe that to get my clients from feeling awkward about their marketing, their business strategy, not quite having their model and everything working for them, is to start with their value, weave that through their marketing and sales, work on their mindset and boundaries. Once we have all of that in place, it all starts to flow and they feel really confident in what they're doing, that they're doing the right thing in the right order, they're in the right place and so on. So I think to come up with your offers, that's all you need to do. What is your idea? How do you believe you can guide your clients from A to B? And then start to package that, come up with your own framework. And this is where a lot of people go wrong and where my clients tend to get stuck, is that they have this offer and it's like, where I started my 53 steps, you can't sell 53 steps, but then you boil it down to those 3 or 4 steps. Then suddenly you have the emotional, every decision to buy is emotional. So you have the emotional draw, which is your philosophy. Why are you doing this? Why is it going to make a difference to your client? What they're going to walk away with afterwards? All of this is what they want. But then we very quickly need to back that up with logic. So this is what I want emotionally, but will this work for me? What's it entail exactly? And having a system or a framework or something simple shows them the logical steps. And so they can follow that. Oh, that makes sense. I can see how I can get from A to B. And then all you need to do then is ask them for the sale. It becomes very simple. So it takes a little bit of time to brainstorm everything, pull it all together, think about what you want people to think, feel, and do at each stage, but use all of that. And that's where you'll find your offers. I've got a framework for that, of course, within my program.
What's it called, your framework there?
I think it's just the simple offer framework.
For framework.
I don't think it's got a fancy name, that one.
When we're talking, for instance, about podcasting, you can then say, this is my simple offer framework, and it consists of 3 parts. And I can tell you part 1, 2, 3, this is like how you can keep the conversation going. And yeah, you become like an expert and an authority in your specific niche. Yeah.
Yeah. And having a framework that's yours is also what's brilliant to share on podcasts, because I've discovered that only 17% of women are guests on podcasts. I was like, well, that's silly. Why is that the case? Because it's so accessible. We can do it from home. It only takes an hour. We don't need to travel. We don't, as introverts, we don't need long recovery times afterwards. There's so many things that make podcasting a brilliant marketing strategy. It's a great way to build trust, build your network. It does so many things. So when I asked on LinkedIn, like, why are you not putting yourself forward? It was, they don't know how to find podcasts. They don't know like how to pitch to them, and they're not really clear and confident on what to say. So what to say will be your offer, your framework. Lean into that. The 3 steps that are going to help you have this outcome is a brilliant framework for a podcast conversation. And so just keep it simple around that. How you find podcasts, there are lots of different ways. Listennotes.com has a list of all the podcasts. But if you get their email, I wouldn't email them directly. I would go to their website. I don't know about your website, but my website, it has a link saying, this is how to be a guest. And it tells you exactly what I'm looking for and a form to fill in. Most shows, well, not most, but a good percentage of shows, you can apply right there. So you don't even have to think about how to do it. What should I say? You just fill out the form. They tell you what they want. So that's how you can find podcasts. Also go to your competitors. Often on their website, they'll have a list of the shows that they've been on. You say, okay, I know those shows interview people like me. Then the next stage is to listen to the podcast so that you can understand a little bit more about the personality of the host. Is it someone that you want to be interviewed by? The structure of the conversation, so that you can give your pitch. Like, you talk about this, you always ask these questions. This is how I'll answer it. This is the story I'm going to share. This is what I'm going to come away with. And so they can really quickly, because I get at least 5 pitches every single day for my podcast, sometimes more. I don't have time to think about, are they the right people? I want them to tell me I'm the right person. And the pitches that people get on the show, they already left me a review on podcast. Get your easy brownie points in. So leave them a review, listen to some shows. Ideally, why not already share one of their episodes with your audience on LinkedIn, tag them in, show them that you have an audience that loves their message, that you love their message. These are really simple things you can do to increase your chances. And then you're going to do your pitch. And on my new Substack, I've got a pitch framework. As a first step, you could even just reach out and say, are you looking for guests right now? Do you have any criteria you could share with me? End off. Then you're already showing that you're someone who wants to do well, that you care about making sure that you can add value, that you're the right person, and you don't want to waste their time. So you can do the pre-pitch or the longer pitch. Go to my Substack, you can copy paste the template there. So this is the one that tells you exactly what I'm looking for in a guest. So it spells out a lot of what I've just said. But just pitch. Often people won't come back to you because they're probably like me. As one person getting 5 or 10 pitches a day, it's hard to keep up with that. So if you don't hear back, do follow up and write to them again in a couple of weeks. Don't assume they saw your previous message. I get, what did you think of my pitch? It's like, well, I didn't see it in the first place, which is why I didn't reply. So I don't know. Really make it easy for the host to see you as a perfect person for their show. So a little bit of homework goes a long way. A simple pitch, but check their website first. Often you can just apply there and just go for it. I mean, they're wonderful, and you get to meet a host who often has a big network. They're influencers already, so there's just so many upsides to being on a podcast. So my big advice is just go for it.
Yeah, and the best thing is really you are now part of the Online Writing Club show. I'm going to be part of your podcast, and we're going to put the link in the show notes. So, Melitta, I think what is like the best way to connect now with you? Is it your website or your Substack?
Definitely go to my Substack, subscribe. Smarter Marketing for Introverts, in case you didn't already know that. You can connect with me on my website, melittacampbell.com. That's Melitta with 2 T's, like the coffee. And on LinkedIn, I've been there since the very beginning. So I'm just Melitta. So I'm really easy to find there. And you'll spot the bright pink blobs. So it's easy to know, oh, I'm in the right place.
Wonderful, Melitta. It was so awesome. Thank you for being one of the boot campers. And now we had this wonderful podcast together. It was super delightful. And then bye, my friends. Bye, Melitta. Bye.